Dylan Harper will likely go number 2 in the 2025 NBA Draft. This is Floor and Ceiling. Let's break him down. Dylan Harper is putting together an amazing freshman season, averaging about 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. He's a really good guard prospect who reminds me of a more aggressive, downhill Cade Cunningham with flashes of Jalen Brunson or James Harden. That's quite the billing, but it has to start with how elite Harper's slashing has looked. He's finishing 66% of his shots at the rim on high volume and self-creation, with only about 2 in 10 of those makes being assisted. What I love the most is how Harper combines his excellent body control with his ability to chain dribble moves together. Harper plays with contact. Rutgers has him at 220 pounds, but he's also elusive, which makes him a really tough cover. The Rutgers freshman has a special ability to change directions, which really stands out in the half court. There, defenders rarely stop him. A bad flu caused a few bad games, but Dylan is high usage, high production otherwise. Harper, for example, loves to split pick and rolls, and this has already become a signature move of sorts for him. The 18-year-old is left-handed, but he can go and finish either way on his drives. Harper lacks lift, which poses some limitations, plus his first step is only good, not great, but it's dangerous enough when paired with his craft, aggression, and physicality. Everything I said here will also be useful in transition, which Harper will see more of in the NBA than in college. The Rutgers prospect is a definite grab-and-go threat who might eventually become a triple-double threat with some growth to his passing. Harper will be able to rebound, push, and then assist or score, so that's a do-it-all playmaker with the strong positional size and skills that NBA teams look for. Harper's most important limitation is his athleticism. He's big, long, and strong for a point guard, but he's not very quick or explosive. Harper can't always finish over vertical bigs. His finishing is more below the rim due to that lack of lift, so he sometimes has to rely on scoops and extensions. In the NBA, the athleticism and size of defenders will obviously go up a level. Let's see how Dylan reacts. Right now, shorter spaces can be a bit of an issue when the defense takes away his angles. Harper can break down a defender one-on-one. I really like his handle and change of direction, as I've said. However, I do prefer when he gets a screen. That way, Harper doesn't have to meet the big or the help head on, which is when he can have a slightly tougher time finishing. I largely love where Harper is at though, so any questions about his scoring surround his jumper. At this time, this self-creation is more relevant to his 3. As of now, Harper is at a little less than 34% from deep, which needs to keep improving. When looking at the 3s that he takes off the dribble, this dips to about 28% on 60 attempts. Clearly, there's willingness, volume, and some skill, but the shot must go in at a higher clip if Harper is to be a ball-dominant, score-first guard. He's just about done okay for now, and some of the signs are encouraging. Harper can make pull-ups in transition, and it is good to see him confidently stepping into these types of shots. Similar to his drives, Dylan can use his handle to chain together dribble combinations and then rise into his pull-up. This applies from 3, as we've been seeing, and also from the mid-range. However, from inside the arc, Harper's conversion isn't much better. He's only made 25% of his mid-range jumpers. Overall, I actually think that the Rutgers guard has a pretty decent self-creation process, but the numbers have to get better so that defenses start respecting his shot. Right now, they'll let Harper pull up all day before giving him the lane, and the numbers back up that decision. In terms of form, Dylan's lefty jumper is a little unorthodox with a low but mostly compact shot and then inconsistent leg and foot placement. There's some cleaning up to do, and the current mechanics can limit Harper sometimes, but I'm not a massive stickler as long as the shot goes in. Of course though, the NBA's three-point line is deeper, and how much or what type of shooting gravity he ends up with is going to be very important for his scoring profile and playmaking balance. If Harper doesn't progress as a shooter off the dribble, the question of what he can do off the ball becomes more pressing. So far this season, this has mostly meant spot-up threes. I think Harper's size could give him some use as a cutter, but this hasn't really been tapped into. As of now, Harper is shooting 38% on catch-and-shoot threes, although it's worth noting that his conversion on closely guarded trades really goes down. Ultimately, I'm projecting Harper to be an offensive engine, and then his off-ball importance might not be that huge contextually, but this is an important part of who Dylan is as a player, so it can then have an impact on how a team thinks about its roster construction. Still though, thinking back to Jalen Brunson, he did once play next to another ball-dominant star in Luka Doncic. Maybe that's what's in store for Harper, who I think will be able to make spot-ups even if on low volume, and from there, Dylan will be able to read the floor and quickly make decisions. That brings us to his passing, so let's start in the pick and roll. Harper's size is key here in that it allows him to see over the top of the defense. A lot of the time, this happens when Dylan draws two defenders to the ball after using a ball screen, and then he releases his screener. This season, Harper is averaging 4.1 assists to 2.2 turnovers. That's a really good ratio, even more when considering Harper's super high usage and the attention that defenses give him. When the option exists for the Rutgers freshman to get downhill using a screen, he creates a lot of attention, and then if Harper actually turns the corner, he can attract the additional help and then generate an open three. For the most part, Dylan's reads are fairly simple right now, but they're very functional and he does a good job at reading the backline accurately. That said, once he's in the league, I predict that Harper will enjoy the increased movement that he'll see with the pick and rolls he gets. He'll have more spacious driving lanes and also more passing options to cutters along the baseline or the dunker spot. Once he's drafted, I'm also very curious to see how Harper will do alongside a next level big with NBA skill and athleticism. When it comes to his passing, Harper is also really good at leveraging his driving ability into creating shots from three or at the rim. I think he could get more assists here with more talent, but really, some of these principles that we've talked about so far once again show up, such as how he's herky-jerky getting downhill, or big seeing over the top. Harper can use his change of direction to score, we've seen that's established, but also to constantly create advantages and force the defense into constant rotation. Simply put, this ability to get paint touches and then make the correct read as a 6'6" playmaker is incredibly valuable. This becomes even more amplified when we consider the rest of Harper's package in terms of rim volume, scoring production, and remaining self-creation upside. To me, this is what makes him a top 3 lock, and right now, he's number 2 on my big board. However, Harper has improvements to make as a point guard. The biggest one for me is that his balance between distributing and scoring can tilt too far towards the latter. To be fair, Harper's context at Rutgers, or at least the offensive load, will be a little less demanding in the NBA. I agree with the notion that he'll have more talent around him, but even in college, I feel like Harper can sometimes miss reads that a point guard should make. For instance, maybe he can release the ball a bit earlier or with more force, and his dexterity or accuracy might still need a bit more polish. Relatedly, Harper's handle can still get cleaner. There are some unforced turnovers or unnecessary ones against basic help. Some of his athletic limitations can also come up once again. To be clear, I see Harper as a point guard, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if some teams saw him as more of a backcourt connector or even a small wing. Teams won't be drafting Dylan Harper for what he does on defense, but I think he'll be okay on this end. In 21 games so far, he has 24 steals and 11 blocks. Maybe you'd want a bit more given that he's 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan, but we have to consider that he has to do almost everything at times offensively, particularly earlier in the year. When he's engaged, Harper is a big body guard who can stay in front. This tape admittedly exists more against lower competition, but it's not like Dylan is a slouch on defense. He can compete and make getting dribble penetration and paint touches tough. It's just that he doesn't do this that often. Looking towards the future, I think that he might struggle against guards who are decently quick, but Harper probably has enough to stay with initiators whose handle is pretty shaky. Also, he's big and strong. Right now, he's listed at 220, but that will only go up as he keeps toning up down the line. So I think Harper will be able to check some threes, and who knows about smaller fours. On the flip side though, Dylan is a ground-bound athlete who lacks twitch and pure velocity. Harper is not slow, but he's not lightning quick, which can show up against those smaller, speedier guards like I said, or even when he has to help and recover. In the NBA, besides the players themselves, Dylan will also have more ground to cover, and he'll have to do that faster and more capably. Continuing to get stronger should help offset some of these athletic limitations. Thinking about initiators, more physical wings and forwards can still score on him, but Harper should be able to contain that better as he bulks. We can see that in the post sometimes, where Harper is tough, but still super young, so I wonder if he can ever tap into a similar defensive motor to OKC's Jalen Williams. Off the ball, navigating screens can be an issue. Harper can still leverage his length better, but it's more about technique right now. He also needs to stay disciplined and steady and resist the temptation to take plays off on defense despite his playmaking workload. One thing worth pointing out is how Rutgers has stashed him on non-offensive threats sometimes to let him rest. I prefer Dylan on the ball, but he can make multiple efforts off the ball too, and sometimes he's shown that he can track what's going on. I think Dylan's awareness is better when he's directly involved, and even though he's no defensive monster, there are enough indicators for me to not see Harper as a non-factor. That, plus his size and potential use on wings, when combined with his offensive output, is what makes Dylan Harper my number 2 prospect right now. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment telling me what you make of Dylan Harper, make sure to subscribe to the Floor and Ceiling Substack, and if you want to watch more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Take care, and I'll catch you guys next time.